Check, check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
Hey, Coach Jay, can hear you loud and clear. Welcome back, AT Beers.
AT Beers. Welcome back. Sounds good to me over here as well, Coach. Looking good. And welcome all of you to At the Buzzer, our market recap. If this is your first time here, I'm Coach Jay. That is Coach Paul. The goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity, see how we could have taken advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. If this is our first time meeting, I'm Coach Jay. I've been a Topstep Performance Coach since June of 2023. Been trading for the past 12 years and in the futures markets for the past 5. And that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Coach Paul. I'm a performance coach with Topstep. I've been with Topstep for a year and a half. I've been involved in the futures industry for 4 decades. I'm here to share my experience and knowledge and assist you in becoming a successful trader.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Coach. Let's look at the news. We know we had a bunch of planned headlines out today. Today being the last full trading day of the week. Just do remember that if you are trading tomorrow or Friday, that they are going to be half days. And we had some news out. Give me 1 second. Okay. Um, if you hear some kids yelling around in the background, my niece and nephew are here. So
Happy holiday.
happy holidays. Initial jobless claims came in at 213,000. Forecast was 215, pretty much in line. U.S. durable goods, 0.2%. Forecast was 0.5%, a little lower than expected. We had a ton of numbers out today. GDP price index, a tenth of a percent higher than expectations. Um, the big number I think that everyone was kind of waiting for was the PCE price index, which came in at 2.3%, which was also forecast at 2.3%. And that's the number that the Fed looks at um, when they are making their decisions. And like Andrew just said, the response to news was very muted today. We didn't see any of those kind of wild volume uh, events at all. Kind of just a slow drift lower in the equity markets. I'm probably skipping some things that we had on the news, but there were at least 10 numbers that came out today. Um, but we didn't see that reaction so much in the markets. Anything you want to report on the news, Coach?
Um, I didn't watch it. I don't have any comment. But the markets moved
The
pretty
markets did
well.
move.
The markets moved. So um, it was the 3 minute J trade
Yeah,
was a
that was
great
the one.
trade. That was the trade that I made. But overall, it was interesting. Other markets moved pretty well in the treasuries, the currencies.
Yep.
So let us begin.
Let's begin. So there are about 35 different markets that we can trade with Top Step accounts, not just the equities. And we'd like to focus and kind of call out what the top percentage movers of the day were. To the downside, we had wheat futures down 1.75%, soybean oil down 4.35%, and nat gas, our biggest percentage mover to the downside, at 7.96%. A lot of that nat gas move, maybe we can look at the charts. I'll pull it up real quick. A lot of that move happened, you know, during the session. Sometimes we'll see these big percentage moves in nat gas, and it will be a gap in the market. But going from the overnight open last night, Globex open, we can see here's the 30-minute range, and was just a really nice trend down all day. We did have inventories out also today. That came in a little bit later, right? Right around here is that inventory print, and at that point we were already down about 5%. And from that print, we sold off another two. So really nice
Well,
move in that gas.
that was an urgency trade last night that I short armed.
Oh, you were in it
I
though.
didn't think oh, I was in it. But interesting if you go to the daily, we've been playing around with the 200-day moving average. And boy, they unleashed the selling today. But it's been playing with that for the last few days. And rejected it in hand 7%. Boy, if I would have known it would have gone down that much, I wouldn't have got
S
out, coach.
Sold all of it, right? Just sell everything. Uh, sell it all, it's never coming back, right? Only if we knew, what these percentage but nat gas, w you have to say, obviously, we don't know what day is going to be an 8% down day, but if there's a market that's going to do it, it is nat gas, uh, from what I've seen.
Yeah. It's usually in the percentage movers, so
Exactly,
it's a
exactly.
great place.
To the upside, we had the Japanese yen up 1.31%, soybean meal up 1.41%, and micro Bitcoin. The rocket is fueled up and ready to go again. Micro Bitcoin up 6.3% for our biggest percentage mover to the upside. To talk about our big four, we had gold up 0.59%. We have where are the S&Ps? We have crude oil down 0.3%. The S&P is down 0.37%. And the NASDAQ, our biggest percentage mover to the downside in our big four, at 0.87%. You can see how I have my chart set up here. We are going to go with the four up look for the equities. I have NASDAQ on the top left, ES on the top right. I'm going to put the Russell on the bottom left and the Dow on the bottom right. Each one of these markets, we have the 200, 50, and 20 moving average on all of these charts. And this is a daily chart. All of them, we have the Dow making new all-time highs, the Russell making new all-time highs, ES made new all-time highs earlier this month, and so did the Nasdaq. Different trades today, but looking at a higher time frame, all markets that are in pretty strong uptrends. Maybe the Russell, the strongest right now. Uh, Switch it to a 30-minute chart, and let's just reset these. I came in the morning looking to buy the Russell. I did have a trade that at one point was in my favor, looking for a potential push towards all-time highs again. Ultimately, we didn't get it and kind of sold off. But the reason I want to bring up these four specifically are the moving averages, right? The moving averages on a shorter time frame, coach. We look at the 30-minute a lot, and I have to thank you for that. Sometimes at different times, they're going to give you different signals, right? We have on the NASDAQ on the top left here, we sold off under the 200 moving average on the 30-minute, where at that time the S&Ps were just crossing under the 20 moving average. So to me, this here looks like a really good sell signal on the Nasdaq because we got the candle close below that 200, and if we wanted to get in short there, we could risk above that 200 moving average somewhere. Ultimately, we didn't take the trade in fast markets. I think we were looking to buy the S&Ps a little bit lower. Um, was there a potential to short this market? Absolutely, and I think that's the trade that you said you took, Coach. We're going to go to a shorter time frame and take a look at that. Um, but then using these same moving averages in a different market, uh, you know, did I have a clear buy signal on the Nasdaq? Maybe, at this 20,700, there was some exhaustion volume. We saw some sellers getting absorbed. But at that same time that the NASDAQ was making a low, at that 20,700, we have the S&Ps making a low off of the 200 moving average. Now, the reason I'm going to lean on this a lot more than just an arbitrary number, I could say, yeah, 20,700 is a whole number in the NASDAQ. It should hold. Uh, if that number doesn't want to hold, it's not going to hold. But we see how often this 200 moving average on the 30-minute becomes an important level. And when we wicked into it, this was my, best trade of the day, right? Trading it off that 200 moving average. Shout out to you, Coach Paul. We did get a volume event down there as well. And I was comfortable with the risk, right? Risking 280. This was literally a Coach Paul playbook trade. And there's something that we can always learn from each other. I've learned a lot from Coach Paul over the past year working with you. And when I see this price action here, I have to take the trade. Went with a 14-point stop, which was two ATRs on a 30-minute chart, and there was no stress, really at all. I traded in the micros, kind of added, scaled in, took some of the position off, but just a really clean setup. And we can see at the time the ES was bouncing off that 200. The Nasdaq did as well, and the Russell and the Dow kind of flatlined at that point. We've talked about this before. Sometimes when we're seeing price action in the Nasdaq and the S&P, the Dow and the Russell are a little bit more consolidated, and they kind of chopped around for the rest of the session.
Good question. What moving average? The white line is the 200, the yellow line is the 20, and the purple line is the 50.
Yep.
The 200 being the most important.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Coach. Let's go to a shorter time frame, Coach. Where did you take that 3 minute opening range trade? Was it in the S and P's or the Nasdaq?
S&Ps
S and P's.
and the
Perfect. So
Nasdaq, one of each.
took them both. I love it.
Uh,
One lot trader in 10 different markets. I love it. So here's the trade Coach Paul is talking about on a shorter time frame. It's funny. It's like we kind of switched spots today. You were trading on the shorter time frame. I was trading on the larger time frame, and it worked out for both of us. Uh,
And I
so
have to throw a shout out right back at you, Coach. I've learned a lot in the last year. You've helped me, and because of volume, it's funny. So, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I just want to put it out there. If the moment you stop learning is the moment you start dying. So, you know, we're here to give you our experience. We're not telling you how to trade, but if you listen long enough, I can you can learn. We can also learn from our audience. So um, this was a great trade. Go ahead,
yeah, it was.
Coach.
Yeah, talk us through it, Coach. So I know we had the open. We did have some news coming out. We know, news in the middle of the session sometimes can cause some hesitation. It's like, you know what? Maybe I want to wait out. Maybe I don't want to hold a position into that news, which is fine. I think, if you're concerned about the volatility that the news is going to have, maybe just taking a position afterwards.
Well,
But if we didn't know the news was happening, go
well,
ahead.
I came in wanting to buy it.
Oh, there you go.
So I waited and I looked at that and I'm like, well, maybe I don't want to buy it so much anymore. That helped. Well, it wasn't straight into the breakout happened after 10 3 minute periods or the half hour. And the half hour on my chart was it was
There you go.
under the 200 moving average, and I'm like, at one part it was gaining momentum, like, using that three there, right there. That was 10 minutes into it. Um, and you know, I didn't get tied in trying to buy it, looking for, and I'm like, wow, this is urgency everywhere, in equities. Um, why? And I don't mean to be coy here. If I used to analyze all the news. I was a trained economist, and why I personally don't, it gives me an opinion, and it makes it harder for me to make quick trades. I, so I knew there was news out. Don't get me wrong. I don't bury my head in the sand.
Right.
Um, but the energy coming off of that, um, it showed me right away. The 3 minute, now the half hour, it's under the 200. It was a cascade of selling. Um, so I sold it down and went to my second resistance level. I let it bounce off of that, um, and had a you know decent trade. Now, but it was basically the same thing, but in the S&P, but it was not. There wasn't the urgency as we had in Nasdaq. It
Yeah.
was there was an
Not
algo.
as dramatic in the S&P.
Yeah, so that's what I saw in the Nasdaq.
Awesome. Um, and a really nice bounce on both markets. The one thing I do want to share, and it's funny because we got before we got on here, I was just like, hey, maybe we'll keep this one short. But for all of our volume profile traders, I just started looking at something kind of just spitballing stuff, kind of seeing different ways to view the market. And we've been talking a little bit about volume profile. I've just started, and we're kind of doing it already, just looking at the overnight range, but the full overnight range, but putting a volume profile on the overnight session for trading the New York session uh, just looks pretty interesting, right? I've done it over the past. I looked at the past 30 days in the markets, and just looking at point of control and then value area high and low for the overnight session. And a lot of times it's presenting some pretty good opportunities. Trying to frame up a playbook trade around it, but definitely interesting to look at so far. So if you use volume profile or you haven't before and you're interested in it, um, take a look at that because it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's a great tool.
Yep.
Um, it's a great tool. Like I said, don't the moment you start to think, you stop learning,
Yep.
you can't grow.
That's it. That is it. Anything else on the equities, coach?
Where was the YM? Do you have that in the
Yeah. So,
quadrangle there?
yeah. So it made a new all time high. It's on the bottom right here. Here's a 30-minute chart. Made a new all time high, 45,121, and then sold off from there.
Sold off. Okay. Um, 'Cause it usually it usually acts the opposite in Nasdaq. I've been noticing.
Right.
It does. Um, but not they all fell for some reason. Um,
Yeah, it looked like on the open, it looked like it was gonna take off, right? Here's the first
yeah.
3 minutes on the open.
Oh,
Uh,
let's look at that and see what happened to VWAP.
stayed in the range.
Okay.
And this is why I kinda had a feeling this is exactly what it's gonna look like. This is why I pay attention to volume, because from a price perspective, this market looked like it was just going to rally. Um, up a tenth of a percent in 3 minutes, and, you know, it's like, "Oh, man, I gotta get in this." But it's just kind of empty price moving, where there's no volume behind it, and just a big fake out. Big fake out. It's easy to get caught in moves like that. I think I probably got caught in one in the Russell. I think I got caught in the same move in the Russell on the bottom left here. But if we look at volume, right, I have the range. We broke out of the range. I kind of set up this Russell trade before we even got on air. But if I'm waiting for the playbook setup, that was never a buy. Um,
Yeah, that's we. How many times have we seen that just this week?
right.
I mean,
And then once it gets back under VWAP, it's a great sell. Now, maybe we have to start writing the playbook for this because it's happened so many times. You're right, coach.
um, so this is a good time for a question from MJ. Do you use VWAP for entry, exit, and stop loss?
I use VWAP to get a concise idea of where the market is going and base my entries off of that. If we have a flat VWAP, then I'm looking to trade a range bound strategy where I don't want any of my entries near VWAP. I want them to be uh, get any kind of extension from VWAP and then fade those extensions, right? So if it's a flat line VWAP and we push up towards the highs, I'm looking to short back into it. And if we're selling under a flat VWAP, I want to buy at the lows of the extremes and trade back up to the VWAP there. If we do have an angle, um, and it's a sharp angle, 45 degrees or more, then I'm looking to sell or buy against that VWAP in the direction that it's going.
But great question, great answer. Also, I use VWAP like an adverb. It enhances the price action. I just call it volume action. And it gives you in this example, someone asked that would you would use the anchored VWAP. Could you have bought it? Um, yeah, you could have bought it with this. If it gets under it, closes, not just the price, then I know that I'm against the current
Yep.
and I'm out. Um, you can use it also as an exit if I like today and on that break on the 3 minute or a 30 minute gets back above VWAP, I can get out. But there's many different ways. It's a great enhancement. Here and once again, it's price and volume
Correct.
versus just price. And I'll use the old saying: some people know the price of everything and the value of nothing. So I spent 30 years, 35 years just looking at price.
Yep. I did, and I'll kind of show. You can see my executions here. It might be actually. I'll change that color to a different color so we can actually see. Let's make it let's make it this pink color. I don't have anything on my charts that color. Uh, but you can see the executions that I have here. I didn't attach an anchored VWAP on this micro Russell trade, and maybe I should have because I wouldn't have taken the long, or I wouldn't have given it as much room as I did. What I was kind of basing this trade on was the overnight VWAP, which is this white line here. We kind of bounced off of it, but exactly what Coach Paul is saying, right? If I did have this red line up while I'm taking this trade, you can see where my entry is, 54, right, 24, and I'll let me see if I can full screen this. All right, you guys are watching me learn how to use TopstepX in real time. Um, so my entry here is 24.54. So I'm buying it kind of off of that VWAP there. And like you're saying, right? Could you have bought it there? Yeah. And at one point, I had a trade that was 8 points in my favor, 9 points in my favor. Could I have taken it off? Should I have trailed? That's a trade management decision. But I liked the buy at the time. Was I preempting along? Absolutely, because the playbook didn't say to take it. But once we get back under VWAP, I did add somewhere in this opening range, like at the lows of this opening range. Again, I should have put VWAP on this chart because I don't think I would have been adding there. But where I'm out is at the low of this opening range. So regardless of what happens, right, if I'm buying this, maybe I think there's more room. I don't want to set my stop somewhere where it's going to get hit, right? I want to be outside of the opening range because that, to me, ultimately invalidated the trade and go from there. But yeah, you could have bought this. You just would have
Yeah,
been right for a short period of time.
and you did. I mean, you don't, if we just move it all the way to the right and go bar by bar where we don't have certainty because the only thing we have when we're in a trade is uncertainty. So I buy it. That looks now it's preempting because VWAP hasn't left the range.
Right.
But okay, and this my stop is two ATRs, and it doesn't mean I have to take two ATR hit. So as it goes by bar by bar, I'm getting new information. Okay, it still looks good. Yeah, this
Yeah,
thing's
looks
going to
great.
the moon.
That's what I thought.
I'll take the red Lamborghini. And oh, now,
Wait.
okay, this is wait. Now here, I think that does it close below VWAP?
Yeah,
I
this
thought
one does right here.
I'm done. Hey, that shouldn't happen. I can always get back in.
Yep.
Now, there it is. I mean, I because I don't want our audience to think we're just picking
No.
um the
Cherry picking
winners.
good examples. No.
This
Definitely
coach
not.
said he was long. Boom. Right there, I got new information. Not working. Now
Yeah.
taking that we talk about taking great losses. If I bought that, damn. Now, where can I get back in to buy it? Let's go forward.
Never gave you an opportunity, really, if you're going with that playbook.
Yeah. If you're just looking at like I just from my experience, I don't try to buy the low. So um you can. I mean, now do we see some kind of volume event off a bottom when we can go forward? No. It's look at that volume too. It was steady. Steady.
Yep. No, it never really happened. We
No.
got this thing here.
Great place to cover short
Yep.
and still never really recovered.
No, not at all.
So I hope that that helps.
Yeah, I was in this long thinking like, "Come on, house account, join me. Get in here." But, sometimes, and you can see it on fast markets, I didn't follow my full process on this trade, and it's going to happen. But the one thing, coach, you say it all the time, you can break rules, you can't break your process, um, or your principles. You can't break
Principles.
principles. I broke a rule here, right, where I didn't even fully plot out this trade because all of these trades should be range VWAP. Broke rule. But what I wasn't going to do regardless was lose more than I already allotted for before I put on the trade. Um, and sometimes that happens. Did I purposely do that? I didn't. And I'm gonna be honest, on Quantower, I have a lot of this stuff automatically set up, so I don't have to manually do it. Right, the range is identified with an indicator. The VWAP is automatically placed there when it prints, so I don't have to rely on me as a human to remember it because I probably got something else on my mind as well sometimes. So um, make
Uh,
sure you're following your process, and in the event that you don't, make sure your principal says that you're not going to lose your entire account off of one trade.
uh, Coach who put a good thing, a great comment there. I'm not going to lose more than, and this is where we talk about the defining your process. Part of that is know how much you're willing to pay to take that position and don't lose more than that because that is principle.
Yep, 100%. All right. Anything else on the equities? If not, we can move on to what else was interesting today.
Well, Japanese, yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, let's do that. I'll pull up a gold chart really quick. Um, we'll go through this. Gold was a decent trade. Didn't give us that immediate urgency last night. Uh, but
Never left
we
the range.
never left the range. VWAP never left that range. It looked for a quick second like it was going to. By the time VWAP was leaving the range, price was already accepting back into it. And again, maybe you look at this on a shorter time frame. Maybe if I look at it on a 3 minute, it was a cleaner trade. But even then, on the 3 minute, it actually looks even less like an opportunity. So that added confirmation: is this a trade that you can preempt? It is. Um, I
If you
think what the playbook, if we're talking about playbook trades, it's shorting up here when this VWAP doesn't leave, and then buying down here, right? Range bound market, flat VWAP, didn't leave the range, buying down here, but it wasn't a clear sell signal. Um, and really nice rally overnight. Of course, we have the news that's going to bring us some volatility. And if any markets were affected by that news, it looked like gold was, where we have some of the bigger volume spikes on a shorter
wow.
time frame. Um, and a pretty decent sell off there. Uh, frame out the equity open, which is 9:30 Eastern time. There's the equity open there. Similar trade. And if we look at the gold floor open, which is down here, presented a decent opportunity for a long. Uh, Gold has been a pretty good market to trade over the last couple of days, presenting opportunities for
Is
buys.
that
We
is
pushed
that the
up toward.
daily?
This is the 30 minute. I can go out to a daily, but this
Uh,
morning we pushed
uh,
up towards that 200, which is a flat line, starting to flatten out a little bit, maybe curl to the downside. Didn't test
yeah,
it
no.
perfectly, but sometimes the market isn't always perfect. The one thing I'm seeing here as well, and I'm gonna go out to daily after this, coach. Yeah, this area. We talked about this candle the other day.
Yeah, that was yeah, that was a big volume candle that still hasn't met anywhere near that.
Nope. Yeah, it's been 2 weeks since we've seen anything even close to that, and we can see when the market trades into it, whoever came in here to sell this, is still defending that position, right? They are the ones that sold us under this 200 moving average, and as we test back up to it, I'm still kinda holding price there. So 50% of that is 26.85. High of the day today was 26.84, we'll call it, and really nice rejection from there. Um, could we still trade this evening and tomorrow morning? Yeah, you can still trade this evening. Dakota is going to be on for slow markets. By tomorrow, your trades have to be closed by 12 p.m. Central Time tomorrow. So, and Will Rod and I agree 41 likes is weak. Let's see if we can get those likes up. Got 488 of you watching here. I want to thank everyone for hanging out and watching. I know it is probably family time. We're thinking, how do we get out of here so we can get the turkey in the oven um, or whatever you're doing with it. If you haven't tried a fried turkey yet, I would highly suggest it. It's the best way to cook a turkey. You might think it dries out, but it definitely doesn't. Obviously be careful. You hear stories of people starting fires, frying a turkey, but it is the best way to cook a turkey, guaranteed. Um,
Is that what you're doing, Coach?
that is what we're doing. That is, and Linus Rain just said it. We deep fry every year. Yeah, I don't think I would ever go back to cooking a turkey a different way, um,
Well,
unless somebody comes out with a better method. Go ahead, coach.
I'm allergic to turkey, so I'm just gonna have
Oh, are you?
steak.
Okay.
No, my brother-in-law played that for many years. He didn't like turkey, and he told his mommy, for the family dinner, "Well, I'm allergic to turkey, so I'm really not gonna." "Oh, I'll cook you a steak."
Yeah,
Man,
I
he
think
pulled that
I would,
off for like
I,
10 years.
I wouldn't mind a steak either. I wouldn't mind a steak. I feel like turkey is just the tradition, but I would not
Yeah.
mind a nice steak either.
So, while we're here, while you hit your like button, tell us what your favorite side is.
Yeah, let us know favorite sides. Mine very simple: garlic mashed potatoes.
Yeah, with lots of butter.
Lots of butter. There we go. Perfect. I
Is
could just do I could honestly just eat a full plate of mashed potatoes, but um that's kind of boring. Uh
with a lot of because I've never heard someone say, "No, God, this is too much butter."
exactly.
I don't
Exactly.
think it's ever been said. "Oh, here we go. We're getting t tater stuffing." That's my
Sweet
favorite.
potato pie, cranberries. Do I fry my steak as well? No, just kind of pan sear. Uh no, have not fried a steak. I did see a YouTube video of a guy deep frying a steak though. Um he said it was terrible, so I'm not going to try it. Uh
Oxtail mashed potatoes with barbecue sauce and cornbread. Wow.
yeah. That sounds like a good meal right
Wow.
there.
That does.
Sounds like a good
Whatever
meal.
happened
Making
to
me
oxtail used to be cheap. Oh, that might
not anymore.
oh my god. That was like, what happened? Fried
Not
ice
anymore.
cream.
Oh,
Mm, good stuff.
nice. Very nice.
Ye
All good stuff, making me hungry. All I had to eat was a slice of pizza today, but I'm saving room for tomorrow. Saving room for tomorrow.
Mac and cheese, potato casserole, green bean casserole. It's
All
all
good.
good, and sweet potatoes. I mean, it's every time it comes Thanksgiving, I don't eat sweet potatoes enough. I'm
Mm.
like, why do
It's like, why
I
don't I just have this all the time?
yeah, I believe it's a whole food.
Right.
Candied yams. Okay. Well,
Anybody hungry
now
yet?
how many likes we got? Because I see a lot of responses.
We are up to 79 likes, 78 now. Somebody took one away. It's okay. We still love you. What else? What other markets do we want to talk about today? We were talking about
Oh,
food,
let's
so
look at the
I pulled up the lean hogs chart. But go
oh,
ahead, coach. Let's talk about the yen.
lean hogs. Look at this rally we've had this week. over the 200 moving average. The relief rally. This is classic short covering for longer term traders. Last night we opened up, and there's an urgency trade.
If I ever seen one.
Um, just to review that trade again, we get the first half an hour. Volume leaves. Elvis left the building with the volume and never looked back.
Never.
Let's look at a daily with the yen. I think it's approaching the 50-day moving average. And look at that.
Ri-
Um,
Right near those, we were just talking about the yearly lows, and we've seen the market turn from there.
it,
Um, Go
it
ahead,
went
Coach.
to it went to that settlement from that previous break.
Mm,
Um, and wow. Um, I was I'm gonna hang my head in shame. I missed that yen trade last night. So it's yen is dollars weakening. Um, but the urgency of that trade and the urgency of um the dollar right now is going to be key here. I think it coming into December. Um, we were talking about the Swiss franc.
yep.
Put a Swiss franc in. Some urgency there too.
Very similar. So I want to just send out an open invite right now to our audience. Um, if you guys are ever watching a market and you see something like this, feel free to tag me in Discord and just say, "Hey Jay, urgency," and I'll understand exactly what you're talking about. Um, excuse me. It seems like these happen so many times; it's hard to catch every single one of them. So if you just happen to see one, if you're looking at some side markets, let me know.
Yeah, please do. Me too. Um, but it's interesting. I think December, there's going to be some volatility more than I think. Um, uh, let's look at Bitcoin.
Let's look at Bitcoin and make sure I'm typing over here. Micro Bitcoin. There we go. Urgency, urgency again. Wow, wow. What was I looking at? Um,
So why I bring this, if we could just stuck on equities, there's a whole world of opportunity. That's the beauty of futures. Um, I can't keep up with them.
yeah,
Um,
it's a lot to keep up with. The micro Bitcoin back above that 200 moving average on the 30-minute coach. Maybe just a quick little 10% sell off is all we needed for the buy program to turn back on. Um, if we're gonna keep doing that, not a market that I want to be short for a very long time.
Australian dollar as a request from Hitesh.
Let's look at the Aussie. Here it is on the 30. Let's go to a daily first. On the daily,
Still looking heavy.
still looks heavy. The only thing I don't, and the Swiss franc, same thing, where this 200 moving average on the daily is pretty flat. Um, and if we look at the kind of the last time we made these lows of the year and then kind of bounced back up from there, but yeah, it's heavy right now. I wish I was looking at it 2 weeks ago, because much clearer short opportunities off of this, closing under this 200, but still looks pretty heavy. Let's look at it for a day trade. And I see why your question about the urgency trade, and then there was another question from it's CJ. Why do we use the 30-minute? We're gonna explain that right after this. Here's the Australian dollar coach. 200 moving average up here. What are you seeing here?
Um, boy, that's the daily.
This is the 30-minute.
Okay. Um, I I get seasick looking at a chart like this.
Yeah.
Uh, it's the Australian is tied to the dollar and commodities more than such as like the Canadian. So it gets caught in the whirlwind. It's almost I used to trade it all the time. Uh, it,
Mm,
but um it's a hard market to really I like trends. So that isn't my kind of game.
yeah, looks like a tough one. It looks like
Look at this.
some days are a little bit better than others, but if I'm looking at this, I'm just saying that there might be another currency market that's presenting some cleaner opportunities, right? Look at the yen, even the um, Swiss franc, the Mexican peso yesterday, uh, which I think was just an effect of the tariff news. But some other currency markets may be a little bit cleaner right now than the Aussie.
Yeah. Nothing
Um,
against the Aussies. I love Australia. I have cousins there. Almost
oh,
my dad
nice.
told me to move there when I was 16. Um anyway, nothing against Australia. That's just a hard thing to trade. Mexican peso. Good.
Mexican
Let's look
peso.
at it. I have to start looking at that.
The peso yesterday was a great move. Um, and
Boy.
today
Oh,
maybe a little bit of a retracement of it. We saw the peso was down about 2.5% yesterday, and kind of retraced at least 50% of that range from that sell off. Still under the 200 moving average, which is kind of sloping lower. Maybe if it keeps selling off the way it has been, that 200 can be a resistance and give you a nice place to trade off of. And again, anything we talk about here is not for education, not for it is for educational purposes, not a suggestion to take a trade in any direction. So just think of that. But yeah, I like that this is sloping lower, kind of acting as a resistance. Maybe a little bit of consolidation here with the 20 back above the 50 and kind of trending up. So we may get a little bit of a squeeze here, but looks interesting. Looks interesting for sure.
let's look at did you put the daily up?
Here it is.
Ooh, boy, what goes up?
Right, right. Right. These are yearly lows that we're making right here. Uh, so does someone step in and save the peso, or do we continue to sell off a little bit lower? We're under 2023's low as well. 2022 lows are next, potentially, if we keep selling off. But yeah, looks heavy.
Yeah. Fair dinkum. Fair dinkum to all you Aussies out there.
Uh, so there was the question, can you explain what an urgency trade is? I think I know just based on what you're showing. I've heard you mention it, but never caught your explanation. And it's CJ asked, why do you use the 30-minute for your opening range? Can you speak on this? So we'll do both of those at the same time. What was the best? We just saw it. Okay, so urgency. We'll look at the micro Bitcoin chart. What Coach Paul and I are calling the urgency trade uh, is this exactly. So we're looking at the first 30-minute opening range from the Globex session open, right? So when trading opens up at night, 5 p.m. Central, we're looking at the first half an hour of that and VWAP in relation to that range. And what we're considering urgency is fairly early in the session, we're seeing volume leave the range and price close outside of that range. Now, why we're calling that urgency is because as soon as the market opens, a lot of times during a lower volume session, um, market participants aren't waiting for anything, right? They're kind of getting right to it, right? They're buying it right away, they're selling it right away, and um, if we look back on some of these, uh, they end up being the trend for the day, which is why I want to try to get into every single one that I see. Now, are they always going to play out that way? No, nothing works 100% of the time. But sometimes they're really clean examples, right? Here is what was the other one we looked at, coach? The yen. The yen was probably even better than gold, where we can see the first 30-minute prints, the next 30 minutes closes outside the range, and VWAP leaving the range. This is urgency. The way I would kind of frame out this trade is I want to get in long And again, we don't get to see the charts like this. We get to see it like this. So I want to get in long somewhere near the high of that first 30 minutes, if not against VWAP, because we can see what the angle looks like. And my stop is at least going to be on the other side of that 30-minute opening range, right? Because if the market trades lower than that, makes a new low, then that invalidates the trade idea. You could also go with Coach Paul's 2 ATR stop, which would be probably a lot further than that.
Well, we lost the volume.
This little hour and a half snippet of the day was the precursor to the trend for the day. Now, we don't know that it's going to play out like this, but where buyers step in that early in the session, they're doing so for a reason. And you can see we never, once we got above that VWAP, we never got a close below it for the session. And then Linus Rain says use gold as an example of not urgent and in turn reversing on the day. Okay, so anytime you're looking for a trade setup, right, it's good to know what it looks like when it doesn't work. And we talked a little bit about gold, but that's the same example, right? Here's gold here, where it looked like it was going to sell off. The difference in gold here, though, right? Look at price. In the middle of the range, VWAP is flat. Price leaves the range. VWAP looks like it's going to, but we talked about it already, Coach. It never left. And maybe it left there, that quick little peak below it, but price went,
Okay,
but
even
volume.
if you sold it,
Right, exactly.
you can get out with VWAP, or your stop is the high of the range,
Correct.
and frame that out. I mean,
Correct. And you would have got stopped out right here. That's one of the percentages of the time it doesn't work, and that's okay.
yeah, because I'm promoting this. There's nothing. If someone tells you, "I got the answer," it's 100%. All you got to do is this: call the police, because you got a felon. What's is not going to work? And I don't say that lightly, because there's some people go, "Oh, I got all
All
the
all you
answers."
have to do is this.
All you have to do is this, and it's never going to come from our mouths. But it's a high percentage, or it's a good place to look for opportunity. Quickly, Scott Martin asks Coach Jay, use 30-minute and 3-minute opening ranges, or 3-minute range elsewhere? It's a very good question.
Yep. So I'm going to use a 30-minute for the overnight and a 3-minute for the regular trading hour session. So once the New York session starts, the equity open, or if I'm looking at crude oil, that 8 a.m. Central Time, I'm going to use a 3-minute. And the reason I change, and you don't have to, right? We've seen Coach Paul use the 30-minute for the New York session as well. The reason I change is because that 3-minute in a higher volume time sometimes presents a quicker trade, right? Today in the NASDAQ, let's just look at the difference between the 3 and the 30. And Coach, I feel like every time we say we're going to end the session early, we never do it. And I'm okay with that, but it never happens. Uh, but it never happens.
It's too much fun.
I think I just love what we do so much here that it's hard to get away. But here's the 3-minute on the NASDAQ. And maybe it wasn't the cleanest example, but here's the 3-minute range. And here is the 30-minute range. Not that much of a difference today, but on some days, I'm trying to remember what the most recent, like really quick sell off that we had in the NASDAQ was. When was it? Where it was a much cleaner trade on the 3-minute than it was on the 30. And it may have been too late on the 30. So it's really a preference thing. That's pretty crazy. Uh, we just marked out whatever that 3-minute opening range was, and that was the low for the day. I love the markets. But it's a preference, right? Find which one works for you. You're going to hear Hogue talk about the 1-minute. Some traders talk about the 15-minute. The concept is still the same though, right? You want price, at least in my playbook, regardless of the range I'm using. I want price and volume to leave that range, because sometimes it's not even an opening range, right? Sometimes I'll use a high volume candle, right, where this is a range. This was high volume near the lows. That's a range. Now it doesn't have to be time locked. I don't have to say, yeah, just because this time I want to go from there. No, this candle had high volume, established a range. Since that price action happened, what is the market saying? Right from here, we got this high volume. At that point, the market started to range. Right, the trend kind of died from there. We made the lows here. How is the market now responding to this range since we printed it? The market's leaving the range. So it really is up to you what time frame you want to use, but the concept to me stays the same.
Great explanation, Coach. Hey, we have a couple questions about Asian session tonight or trading tomorrow
Mhm.
or even on Friday. My experience, yes. You remember Canadian Thanksgiving, Coach?
So it's
Right.
funny. I had I
Oh, he
I
does.
I asked that question in my VIP room after you had asked me it the other day, and my answer was no when you asked me, and then someone Googled it.
So of course, yes. But and it why I bring it up. Nothing against I have cousins in Canada too.
Okay.
But I love Canada. Um, but Thanksgiving is peculiar to the United States. The rest of the world wonders why we love turkey so much. Um, Key is this: there's going to be less players, so it'll be thinner. Can you trade? Yes. Just understand that the volume will be thinner. Market makers will be reining in their size. And there could be some great trades. So participate if you choose. Just understand that.
Yep. Markets are open, so there is always the potential to move.
Coach, I lost your volume.
Yep, you should be able to hear me now. It's CJ had asked, what if the Nasdaq gaps open? Do you still take that opening range trade? Yeah, my process is going to be the same. And if that gap was going to fill overnight and they were ready to fill it, then I would have seen selling come in right away. Here's Sunday's gap, and we can see it, right? There's no urgency here. If by the time I'm ready to go to bed and I'm looking to set up a trade and it looks like this, I'm just going to close the charts and say I'll trade for the New York session because there's nothing for me to do here. I can try to guess that this is going to happen, but I don't want to guess. I want the market to definitively tell me it's doing something and go from there. What it's definitively telling me here is that it likes these prices and it's not going to go anywhere yet. So I'm just not going to trade it. Um, we got about 5 minutes left. I don't think I have another market that I want to discuss. We talked about a couple today, which is always good. Anything else you want to go over, Coach?
Um, Nothing else I want to go over. Just going to finish up for um this will be our last one for the week.
Yep,
I just want to give thanks to Coach Jay for all he does, what I've learned from him, and to our audience. Um, Thanks for being here. I hope you get some education from this. I really enjoy it, and I wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
absolutely. Um, and I echo that, Coach. Thank you as always. We've been doing this for over a year. I've become a better trader because of the work that we do together. So I'm very thankful for you. Thankful for the chat, for our viewers here, our community here, our family here that is joining us every day, asking us questions. Hopefully, we're helping you become better traders, and I think by nature, you're helping us become better traders, right? Having to kind of simplify our process so we can explain it, and not only simplify it, but take the trades that we're talking about to kind of enforce that as well. So thank you to everyone here joining us. Thank you for liking the video. Um, I got nothing else. Enjoy
Oh,
some
one
time.
more.
Oh, go ahead, Coach.
Thanks to Andrew, behind the scenes.
Yes.
Can't.
Yes. Absolutely. Thank you, Andrew. As always, we don't answer your questions without Andrew, and he says it in the chat there. Take the days off. We all need a 4-day weekend of rest. Come back Monday fresh and ready to kill it. I agree with you, Andrew. Once we get off of here, I'm probably going to shut down my charts until next Monday. Um, are the markets going to move? Potentially, but they're always going to move, whether I'm there or not. So I'm okay taking a couple of days off, just to be with family. But if you are trading and you continue to trade, make sure you manage your risk. If that doesn't change, um, manage your risk, trade well, trade smart. I got nothing else, Coach.
Hey, Coach, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. If you celebrate, enjoy. We'll talk to you soon. Remember, Dakota is going to be on for slow markets tonight, but then after that, Topstep TV is off until Sunday with Nick for a tick. And I believe our coaches in Discord are not doing classes today either. So until next time, trade well, have fun. We'll talk to you later. Thanks, Coach.
Bye.